I'm Lucy, and if you'd told me at 22 that my life would be a whirlwind of silent battles and unspoken words, I would have laughed it off. But here I am, at 34, living a story far removed from the dreams I once had. It all began at a friend's birthday party, fresh out of college, with a heart full of dreams. That's where I met Tom. He had the kind of smile that could stop you in your tracks and a laugh that made you feel like you were in on the world's best joke. "Never thought I'd meet someone who could beat me at Mario Kart," he said, his eyes twinkling with mischief as he handed me a controller. I laughed, taking up the challenge. Prepare to be amazed. I'm the reigning champ of college dorm tournaments. We clicked instantly, our banter as easy as breathing. It wasn't long before our families became one big, happy unit. Tom's parents, Mike and Sarah, welcomed me with open arms, their warmth enveloping me like a cherished family heirloom. After we got married, life's script took an unexpected turn. Tom and Sarah were old school in their thinking. "A woman's true calling is at home," Sarah would often say, her voice gentle but firm. I had other plans for my life, career goals I wanted to achieve. But love, I reasoned, was about compromise. So, I traded my ambitions for a domestic life, telling myself it was just another kind of adventure. Then Emma came into our lives, a bundle of joy that I thought would complete our family picture. But Tom's reaction to our baby girl planted the first seed of doubt in our perfect garden. "I always imagined having a son to carry on the family name," he said, looking down at Emma with a distant gaze that didn't match the situation. I felt a twinge in my heart but masked it with optimism. "Next time, we'll have your boy," I replied, hoping to bridge the gap his words had created. However, life had other plans. My health took a turn, shutting the door on any future pregnancies. The disappointment in Tom's eyes was palpable, an unspoken barrier that started to rise between him and Emma. As the years passed, Emma blossomed into a spirited, independent girl, wise beyond her 7 years. She found joy in cooking, her little hands creating dishes that would surprise and delight Mike and Sarah. "Grandma, Grandpa, try the cookies I made," she'd say, her face alight with pride. "Delicious, sweetheart. You're going to be a famous chef one day," Mike would exclaim, his eyes gleaming with pride. But Tom's reactions were lukewarm, at best. He'd nod, murmur a half-hearted nice, and go back to his world, a world that seemed to have no room for Emma. One evening, as I was tucking her into bed, her voice trembled with a question that shattered my heart. "Mommy, why doesn't Daddy like my cooking? Why doesn't he love me?" I took a deep breath, my mind racing for the right words. "Honey, Daddy does love you. He has a different way of showing it. It's not your fault, okay? You are amazing, and don't you ever forget that." But even as I said the words, a nagging voice in the back of my mind whispered doubts. Was it really just about showing love, or was there something deeper, a chasm we couldn't see but only feel? The clock's hands seemed to move slower each evening, the tick-tock a loud reminder of the growing void in our home. Tom's late returns had become the norm, his presence more like a shadow than the partner I once knew. The house, once filled with laughter and shared dreams, now echoed with the silence of our unspoken tensions. One chilly evening, as I heard the familiar jingle of Tom's keys at the door, something inside me snapped. The frustration and loneliness I had bottled up for so long demanded to be heard. "Tom, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady but my hands trembling. What we're doing, it's not living. You're never here, and when you are, it's like you're a million miles away." He sighed, a sound of annoyance more than exhaustion. "Lucy, not this again. I'm out there, every day, grinding away for this family. Can't you just be grateful for that?" His words stung, a harsh reminder of the chasm that had formed between us. Grateful? For a husband who's more a ghost than a partner? For a father who's just a name to his own daughter? I shot back, the hurt spilling over. Tom's face hardened, his eyes cold and distant. "You wouldn't last a day in my shoes, Lucy. You sit at home, in your little bubble, while I deal with the real world. Don't lecture me about being a partner or a father. I bit my lip, fighting back the tears. This wasn't the man I married, this angry stranger who wore Tom's face. I wanted to scream, to shatter the icy calm that had enveloped him, but fear and the need to protect Emma from more hurt kept me silent. The distance between us grew, a silent gulf filled with the things we didn't say and the love that had once bound us. Tom's move to the spare room was the final nail in the coffin of our marriage. Our bed, which had once been a haven, now felt like an empty stage after the final act, the audience long gone. In the midst of this growing void, Emma became the only light. Her success at school, her sharp mind, and joyful heart were my anchors in a sea of uncertainty. "You're incredible, Emma," I told her, my voice thick with pride. "You deserve something special." The smartphone was more than a gift, it was a lifeline, a connection to a world that was still bright and full of possibilities. Emma's delight at the present was a balm to my weary heart. "This is awesome, Mom. Look at all the stuff I can do," she exclaimed, her fingers flying over the screen, her laughter a melody in our muted home. I smiled, but my heart was heavy with a secret. "Just remember, sweetheart, this is our little secret." "Dad, well, you know how he feels about these things," I cautioned, hating the deception but fearing Tom's unpredictable temper more. Emma's eyes met mine, a mirror of understanding far beyond her years. "I won't tell him, Mom. I promise," she said, her small hand squeezing mine in a silent pact. The idea of Tom taking Emma on a camping trip hit me out of the blue. It was a sunny Saturday morning when he brought it up, the kitchen filled with the smell of pancakes and coffee. "Emma, how about you and I hit the mountains next weekend? Just the two of us, a father-daughter adventure," Tom announced, his tone surprisingly cheerful. Emma's face lit up like it was Christmas morning. "Really, Daddy? Just you and me?" she asked, her voice trembling with excitement. I watched the scene unfold, a knot of worry forming in my stomach. Tom and outdoor activities were as likely a pair as oil and water. "Are you sure that's a good idea, Tom? You know the mountains can be unpredictable this time of year," I said, trying to keep my voice light. Tom shot me a look, his eyes briefly flashing annoyance, before settling back into a forced smile. "Lucy, I know what I'm doing. It'll be good for Emma and me to spend some quality time together." I turned to Emma, who was practically bouncing in her seat. "Sweetheart, it sounds like an adventure, but you have to promise to be careful, okay?" Emma nodded vigorously, her smile wide and genuine. "I promise, Mom. And Daddy knows everything about camping, right, Dad?" Tom ruffled her hair, his response a little too casual. "Of course, kiddo. Your old man's got a few tricks up his sleeve." The rest of the week passed in a blur. Tom seemed more engaged, discussing camping gear and trails with a level of enthusiasm I hadn't seen in years. But as the departure day drew closer, my anxiety grew. The mountains were beautiful, but unforgiving, and the thought of Emma in that vast wilderness tugged at every maternal instinct I had. The morning they left, I packed Emma's bag with extra care, double-checking her warm clothes and first aid kit. "You sure you've got everything, Tom? Map, compass, emergency contacts?" I asked, my voice barely hiding my concern. Tom nodded, a backpack slung over one shoulder. "Lucy, relax. We'll be fine. It's just a couple of nights. What could possibly go wrong?" His words, meant to reassure, only heightened my unease. I hugged Emma tightly, whispering reminders and "I love yous" into her ear. "Mom, I'll be okay. I'm a big girl now, remember?" Emma said, her bravery a stark contrast to the fear in my heart. "I know, baby. Just take care of each other, okay?" I replied, forcing a smile as I watched them drive off. The house felt empty without Emma's laughter and endless chatter. I busied myself with chores, but my mind was in the mountains, trailing behind my daughter and the husband who felt like a stranger. The door creaked open, and the sight of Tom standing there alone, his face ashen and eyes hollow, sent a chill down my spine. My heart skipped a beat, my mind racing with the worst possibilities. "Tom, where's Emma?" I asked, my voice quivering, trying to steady myself against the kitchen counter. He stumbled into the living room, his words jumbled, his hands shaking. "Lucy, I lost her. In the mountains. We were hiking, and she's gone." I felt the ground beneath me give way. "What do you mean, gone?" I demanded, my voice rising in panic. "Tom, how could you lose her? She's just a child." His face crumpled, the weight of his guilt and fear written all over it. I turned away for just a second, I swear. When I looked back, she wasn't there anymore. I searched, I called out. "Lucy, I did everything I could." Anger and terror surged through me, a torrent of emotions I couldn't contain. "And you just came back? Without her? Why didn't you call the police, the rangers? Anyone?" He sank into a chair, his hands covering his face. "I was scared. Scared they'd blame me, think I'm a bad father. I didn't know what to do." Without another word, I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. My hands were trembling, but my voice was surprisingly calm as I reported Emma missing. Every second felt like an eternity, each tick of the clock a sharp reminder of the nightmare we were living. Soon, our quiet home was filled with the sound of sirens and the urgency of police officers. Tom's parents, Mike and Sarah, arrived, their faces etched with worry and disbelief. "Lucy, what happened? Where's our little Emma?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling as she reached out for me. I shook my head, the tears finally breaking through my carefully held composure. "She's lost, Sarah. Lost in the mountains because he wasn't careful enough." Mike wrapped his arm around Sarah, his gaze fixed on Tom with a mix of confusion and anger. "Son, tell us this isn't true. Tell us you know where your daughter is." Tom looked up, his eyes red and his voice barely a whisper. "Dad, I messed up. I don't know where she is. I don't know how to fix this." The room was thick with tension, the air heavy with unspoken accusations and fear. As the police began their questions, organizing search teams and gathering details, I felt a numbness settle over me. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be. But as the night wore on, with no news and the darkness outside mirroring the despair within, the harsh reality settled in. My little girl, my Emma, was out there alone, in the vast, unforgiving wilderness. As the search for Emma dragged on, the house felt like it was closing in on me. Every second was a sharp jab to my heart, every minute an endless stretch of worry. And Tom, he was there, but not really. His eyes glued to his phone, fingers tapping away. It was like he wasn't even in the same world of panic and fear that was swallowing me whole. "Tom, what are you doing? Our daughter is out there, and you're just texting?" I snapped, frustration boiling over. He didn't even look up. "It's work, Lucy. It doesn't stop just because of this," he mumbled, his words like a slap to my already raw nerves. Work? At a time like this? It didn't sit right. But then it hit me. Emma's phone, the one I gave her, the one we kept a secret. It had GPS. Emma's phone. She has it with her. We can track her. I exclaimed, a flicker of hope cutting through the dense fog of despair. Mike and Sarah perked up, their worn-out faces showing the first signs of hope since the nightmare began. "That's brilliant, Lucy. Call her, see if she answers," Mike said, his voice a mix of hope and urgency. I dialed Emma's number, my heart pounding so loud I could barely hear the ring. But there was no answer. She didn't pick up. I tried again, and again, nothing but the cold, impersonal ringing. Panic surged again, but then I remembered the GPS. I relayed the details to the police, every part of me trembling with a cocktail of fear and hope. And then, after the longest hour of my life, a miracle. The search team, they found her. They brought my baby back, alive and unharmed, her little face calm, despite the ordeal she'd been through. I broke down, holding her so tight I feared I might never let go. "Emma, baby, why didn't you answer your phone?" "We were so worried," I sobbed, the relief overwhelming every other emotion. She looked up at me, her eyes wise beyond her years. "I was saving the battery, Mommy. In case it took longer to find me. I knew the GPS would bring you to me." Her smart thinking, her calmness in the face of danger, it was beyond anything I could have imagined. She was her own little hero. Mike and Sarah hugged us both, their relief palpable. "You're one brave girl, Emma. You made it through," Mike said, his voice thick with emotion. And Sarah, her eyes wet with tears, added, "You're our little miracle, Emma. We're so blessed to have you back." But amidst the joy and relief, I couldn't help but glance at Tom. His reaction, it wasn't right. It wasn't the overwhelming relief or the desperate joy of a parent who found their lost child. It was something else, something that didn't fit the picture. Before I could think of that thought, Emma, her small frame still trembling from the night's events, looked at her father and said something that stopped us all in our tracks. "Daddy left me there on purpose." The room went silent, the air thick with the weight of her words. Tom let out a nervous laugh, but it sounded hollow, forced. "What are you talking about, Emma? That's a serious accusation." I looked at Emma, my heart pounding. "Honey, what do you mean? Tell us everything." Emma's gaze was steady, her voice firm, despite the fear that lingered in her eyes. "I heard Daddy on the phone. He was talking to someone about getting rid of me." The world seemed to spin, each word from Emma's lips a sledgehammer to the life I thought I knew. Mike and Sarah looked at their son, their faces a mix of horror and disbelief. "Tom, tell me this isn't true. Tell me our granddaughter is mistaken," Mike said, his voice a low growl of a father protecting his cub. Tom's face was pale, his usual composure shattered. "Dad, I can explain." But before he could spin his web of lies, Emma took out her smartphone, her small fingers deft with certainty. "I recorded it. I was scared, and I didn't know what else to do." The recording was clear, Tom's voice discussing a chilling plan with a cold detachment that made my blood run cold. My world, once filled with love and trust, was crumbling around me, each word from the recording a painful blow. Sarah was sobbing, her hands covering her face. Mike stood, his body rigid with fury. "How could you, Tom? She's your flesh and blood." Tom fell to his knees, his mask of indifference finally crumbling. "I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. It was all her idea," he pleaded, but his words were like ash, meaningless and cold. The police arrived, their blue lights painting the night with flickers of justice. As they led Tom away, his pleas and excuses fading into the night, I held Emma close, her bravery and quick thinking a stark contrast to the cowardice of her father. The interrogation room at the police station was a cold, uninviting space, its stark walls echoing the chilling confessions that unfolded within. I sat there, a silent observer, as the detective methodically unraveled the tangled web of lies and deceit that Tom had woven. "So, let me get this straight, Mr. Wilson." The detective's voice was stern, unyielding. "You conspired with your mistress to abandon your daughter, hoping that she would freeze or that wild animals would find her?" Tom's face was pale, his usual confident demeanor replaced by a look of desperation. "It wasn't like that. I mean, yes, but it was her idea. She said it was the only way we could be together, without the complications." "Complications?" The detective raised an eyebrow. "You mean your daughter, your own flesh and blood? You mean alimony?" Tom shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his gaze darting around the room as if looking for an escape. "She's pregnant, she's going to have a boy. I just wanted a fresh start. I didn't think it would go this far." I felt a surge of anger, each word from Tom's mouth a testament to his betrayal. How could the man I once loved, the father of my child, be capable of such heartless cruelty? The detective leaned in, his eyes fixed on Tom. "Your plan failed, Mr. Wilson. Your daughter survived, thanks to her own resourcefulness and a smartphone with GPS. What do you have to say about that? Tom's silence was deafening. The reality of his actions, the enormity of his betrayal, was finally sinking in. The days that followed were a blur of legal proceedings and emotional upheaval. In the courtroom, as the judge delivered the verdict, a sense of surreal calm enveloped me. Tom and his mistress were sentenced to prison, their futures a bleak canvas of regret and retribution. In addition, the judge ordered Tom to pay a substantial sum for his unforgivable betrayal and mandated alimony to support Emma. Outside the courtroom, the sky was an endless expanse of gray, mirroring the storm of emotions within me. Mike and Sarah approached, their faces etched with pain and disbelief. "Lucy, we can't begin to express our sorrow." Mike's voice trembled with emotion. "We raised Tom to be a better man than this. We're here for you and Emma, whatever you need." Sarah's eyes, red from crying, met mine. "Lucy, we're so sorry. If we had any idea. Please, let us help make this right." I nodded, the weight of their words heavy on my heart. "Thank you. Your support means everything. But right now, it's Emma who needs us the most. We need to show her that, despite everything, she's not alone." As we left the courthouse, the world seemed to move in slow motion, each step a tentative move towards an uncertain future. Emma's hand in mine was a silent vow of strength and unity, a promise that no darkness could ever overshadow the bond we shared. The days after the trial were like walking through a fog, each step uncertain but forward-moving. The house that once echoed with Tom's presence now felt strangely peaceful, the turmoil he'd brought with it gone. One morning, as Emma and I sat at the kitchen table, the sun casting a warm glow through the window, she looked up at me, her eyes reflecting a wisdom far beyond her years. "Mom, are we going to be okay?" she asked, her small hand reaching across the table to mine. I squeezed her hand, feeling the strength that flowed between us. "Yes, sweetheart, we're going to be more than okay. We have each other, and that's all that matters." Emma smiled, a hint of the carefree child she once was peeking through. "I miss Grandpa Mike and Grandma Sarah." "Do you think they're sad too?" The mention of Mike and Sarah tugged at my heart. "I'm sure they are, honey. But they love us, and they're there for us. Maybe we should visit them soon, what do you think?" Emma's face lit up, the idea of seeing her grandparents bringing a spark of joy. "Yes, let's do that. Grandpa always makes me laugh, and Grandma's hugs are the best." The sound of laughter and chatter soon filled the house, a stark contrast to the silence that had preceded it. As we prepared for our visit, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey we'd been through. "Mom, will things ever be like before?" Emma asked, a hint of uncertainty in her voice as she packed her little backpack. I knelt down, meeting her gaze. "No, sweetie, it won't be like before. But that's okay. We're starting a new chapter, just you and me. And sometimes, new beginnings are even better than what we leave behind." Emma nodded, her understanding far beyond her years. "I love you, Mom." "I love you too, baby. More than anything in the world," I replied, hugging her tight. As we drove to Mike and Sarah's, the familiar streets seemed to hold a new promise. The door opened even before we could knock, Mike and Sarah standing there, their arms open, ready to envelop us in their warmth. "Lucy, Emma, come here, my darlings," Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion as she pulled us into a tight embrace. Mike ruffled Emma's hair, a smile breaking through his usual stoic demeanor. "You're one tough cookie, kiddo. Just like your mom." The day passed in a blur of shared stories, laughter, and the occasional tear. It was healing, a balm to the wounds that were slowly turning into scars. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, I knew that the road ahead would have its bumps and turns. But with Emma by my side, and the love and support of family, each step would be a move towards a future filled with hope and new possibilities. "Mom, look at the sunset. It's like the sky is celebrating with us," Emma exclaimed, her face aglow with the fading light. I looked at the sunset, then at Emma, and I knew she was right. This wasn't just a new dawn for us. It was a celebration, a testament to our strength, our resilience, and the unbreakable bond that no darkness could ever overshadow.